Sometimes I wonder if the biggest problem with our country today is that it is typically led by people who have never had a real job. Unfortunately, a huge number of our politicians know absolutely nothing outside of the Canberra bubble. And you know what? It shows. They dream up legislation for the sake of legislation, promising to make all our lives better, only to end up making our lives much worse. And it's all because many of our politicians have zero, and I do mean zero, real world experience. Take the government's right to disconnect laws as the most recent example. The government have made it illegal for a boss to contact a staff member outside of work hours. Now, this legislation, as drafted by the unions, as drafted by the government, meant a boss could face jail for daring to email an employee after work. Yes, you heard me right, jail. Now, these laws have been widely ridiculed, and so they should be, because you know what? They're not going to work. They don't account for modern work practices. They can't be applied over diverse work situations, and they fail to take into consideration the give and take relationship that exists between employers and employees. And at the end of the day, it should be up to the employer and to the employee to decide their work arrangements, not the government. We have enough government in our lives. So how did the Labor Party come up with such a harebrained industrial relations law? Could it be that workplace laws created by Labor are so flawed because most Labor politicians have never worked any place outside of a union or a government office? Now, the most shocking discovery I made arriving in Canberra as a senator was how little life experience most of my colleagues have. Now, don't get me wrong, I like most of them, or some of them anyway. I just don't think that they've done much in their lives. Their LinkedIn profiles all read exactly the same. Now, typically, our politicians discovered a love of politicking at university, where they were studying, obviously, an arts degree. They left university to become a union rep or a political advisor in some office somewhere. And when they finally paid enough dues, their political overlords rewarded them with pre-selection for a cushy, safe parliamentary seat of their own. Why have I thrown up my hands to be in federal parliament, potentially as a senator? Why have I done it? I've done it because I'm sick to death of seeing the Australia that I love be ripped apart by politicians, by career politicians. Now, what do I mean by career politicians? Now, I solemnly believe in my heart that the career politician is exactly what's wrong with Australia. Now, let me give you an example. The state premier, Daniel Andrews. Now, Daniel Andrews finished a Bachelor of Arts in 1996. After this, he went straight to work for a Labor MP named Alan Griffith. After this, he went to work in a few other positions in Labor at head office, etc. And he's just worked his way up the ranks. He's sat there and he's waited for a safe Labor seat to pop up. When that safe Labor seat popped up and was available, he threw his hand up for it and he became the Labor MP for that area. That's what he's done. He is a classic example of a career politician, somebody who from a very young age wants to lord over you and have power over you, and that's all he's ever wanted to do. And that's what he's doing now. He's acting like he's the king of Victoria. And he is exactly what's wrong with politics today. We need politicians in Parliament that are not career politicians, because politicians should be made up of people, regular people from their electorate, people who have thrown their hands up, sacrificed and said, hey, you know what, I need to do something for the betterment of my community. Not people who go into this thinking that it's a career, who go into this thinking, hey, I want to lord over my community. Hey, I want to be premier, I want to be senator, I want to be MP, I want to be prime minister, whatever. That's not who needs to be in charge. The people who need to be in charge are people that have lived a normal life, are people that are from the community, are people that can relate to the people of their electorate because they are one of them. Not these people like Andrews, who are so bloody disconnected from the real world that he has no grounding in reality anymore. So I've thrown up my hand to hopefully put an end to stuff like that. Finally, having never run a business, they then fly business class to Canberra to tell businesses how they should run. It's crazy. And the problem doesn't exist only within the Labor Party. You'd be shocked at how few national MPs have actually owned and run farms. And you'd be surprised at how few Liberal MPs have actually run successful businesses. I own a real estate company. My brother and I built a successful business from the ground up. And when I'm done with politics, I will happily go straight back to the business that we built. I didn't go into politics because I needed a career. I already had one. I went into politics to save the country from career politicians. God knows we've got way too many of them. I'm Senator Ralph Babet for the United Australia Party.